Right. I think me reading this book is probably the least surprising thing ever. It is Extreme Ownership: How US Navy SEALs Lead and Win by Jocko, Willink, and Leif Babin. Um, Insanely good book. Insanely good advice, leadership style. I will interview them both one day, but for now, I want to share with you something that really jumped out to me. Is at the end of the book, in the chapter "Discipline Equals Freedom." I want to pick it apart. It's the section called "Principle," and I'm going to read you parts of it. So, every leader must walk a fine line. That's what makes leadership so challenging. Just as discipline and freedom are opposing forces that must be balanced, leadership requires finding the equilibrium in the dichotomy of many seemingly contradictory qualities between one extreme and another. The simple recognition of this is one of the most powerful tools a leader has. With this in mind, a leader can more easily balance the opposing forces and lead with maximum effectiveness. A leader must lead, but also be ready to follow. Sometimes another member of the team, perhaps a subordinate or direct report, might be in a better position to develop a plan, make a decision, or lead through a specific situation. Perhaps the junior person has greater expertise in a particular area or more experience. Perhaps he or she simply thought of a better way to accomplish a mission. Good leaders must welcome this, put aside ego and personal agendas to ensure that the team has the greatest chance of accomplishing its strategic goals. A true leader is not intimidated when others step up and take charge. Leaders that lack confidence in themselves fear being outshined by someone else. If the team is successful, then recognition will come for those in charge, but a leader should not seek that recognition. A leader must be confident enough to follow someone else when the situation calls for it. Now, I want to say something on that. I have lived in a few different countries. I grew up in the UK, and I currently live in the UK. And I believe the culture in the UK is quite insecure. Most people are quite insecure, not very confident. Now, my opinion, just my opinion, is that I don't think there are that many great leaders in the UK because of a lack of confidence. And when some people do have confidence or appear to have confidence, they are deep down actually very insecure, and the ego takes over. And I think there is a big difference between insecurity and lack of confidence. I believe someone can be very secure with themselves but have no confidence, and then the other way around. Someone can be incredibly insecure but full of confidence, but they're still worrying about what everyone else thinks. They're even arrogant. I'd say not so much confident, but I know there's a lot of people who are very, very arrogant but incredibly insecure. So I think that not having an ego comes with being incredibly comfortable with who you are, your position. You don't really care what other people think about you. You do what is right because you know it is right, and you're very comfortable in your own skin. You're very comfortable with your decisions. I think culture plays a big part in the ability of someone to have no ego. I think it's something that also comes from being in the military, so maybe there is something in that. Anyway, moving on. A leader must be aggressive but not overbearing. SEALs, Navy SEALs, are known for their eagerness to take on tough challenges and accomplish some of the most difficult missions. Some may even accuse me of hyperaggression, but I did my utmost to ensure that everyone below me in the chain of command felt comfortable approaching me with concerns, ideas, thoughts, and even disagreements. If they felt something was wrong or thought there was a better way to execute, I encouraged them, regardless of rank, to come to me with questions and present an opposing view. I listened to them, discussed new options, and came to a conclusion with them, often adapting some part or perhaps even all of their idea if it made sense. If it didn't make sense, we discussed why, and we each walked away with a better understanding of what we were trying to do. That being said, my subordinates also knew that if they wanted to complain about the hard work and relentless push to complete the mission I expected of them, they best take those thoughts elsewhere. Damn, you are going to get a reality check if you go bitching and moaning. So, aggressive, not overbearing. Aggression, I think, is a very broad statement. I think there's different types of aggression. Controlled aggression, assertiveness, not backing down. I think they're positives. Uncontrolled aggression, over-aggression, not judging the situation, judging the room, judging the person that you're being aggressive with. I think they are, that's bad. I think you need to be very hyper aware of what the other person, how it will be perceived by them. You need to know your audience. Also, I like empowering the people within your team and listening to them, and also not just saying, no, that's dumb. Actually talking to them and discussing their idea and getting them to understand why possibly something might work, but in a very positive way, and not discouraging them from coming to see you again. So I really, really like that. So, a leader must be calm but not robotic. It is normal and necessary to show emotion. The team must understand that their leaders care about them and their well-being. But a leader must control his or her emotions. If not, how can they expect to control anything else? Leaders who lose their temper also lose respect. But at the same time, to never show any sense of anger, sadness or frustration would make that leader appear void of any emotion at all. A robot. People do not follow robots. This is a difficult one for me because being Latin, I can be hot-headed, but weirdly I think because you're so quick to be hot-headed, I think there's never anything in it. So it's not serious. It's not, people generally, when I'm losing my head and coming back down and losing my head and coming back down, I think people, they don't take it personally, they're not offended by it because it happens so often, and they know that's just how I express myself. It's passion. It's passion. When I get frustrated with something, I'm very passionate about it. So I agree about the composure. I keep saying composure. I think composure in a very stressful, pressured time and environment, I think that's vitally important. That time I would stay very composed. If I'm under pressure, if I'm in a fight or flight situation, it's just composed, immediately switch off. Everything is just calm. The calm during the storm. But frustrations, little things, yeah, I'm constantly hot, cold. So yeah, I don't know if I can work on that. I think it's genetic. Right. Of course, a leader must be confident but never cocky. Confidence is contagious, a great attribute for a leader and a team. But when it goes too far, overconfidence causes complacency and arrogance, which ultimately set the team up for failure. I do think you can sometimes be slightly cocky as long as you are also slightly self-deprecating. If you can laugh at yourself, you can be slightly cocky and get away with it. If you are cocky and never badmouth yourself, and never, not badmouth, but laugh at yourself, if you can't laugh at yourself, that comes across as arrogant. I think you need to be able to, which goes along with ego. If you've got no ego, you can laugh at yourself. Then I think you can get away with being a bit cocky, and people find it quite funny, and but again, it's a very fine line. It takes practice. Moving on. A leader must be brave, but not foolhardy. He or she must be willing to accept risk and act courageously, but must never be reckless. It is a leader's job to always mitigate as much as possible those risks that can be controlled to accomplish the mission without sacrificing the team or excessively expending critical resources. Courageous. We've had that one. That one keeps coming up. Courageous. I do think I don't mean just like running into a cloud of bullets, like this might mean literally in a military situation. I think it also means being courageous enough to stand up against the masses, to go against the grain. If everyone is saying, we're just going to do this, having the courage to stand up and just say, no, that's wrong. I don't believe that's right or that it would work. I think that takes courage. That takes courage. Standing up for what is right. That definitely takes courage. Leaders must have a competitive spirit, but also be gracious. Gracious losers. Apologies. Leaders must have a competitive spirit, but also be gracious losers. They must drive competition and push themselves and their teams to perform at the highest level. But they must never put their own drive for personal success ahead of overall mission success for the greater team. Leaders must act with professionalism and recognize others for their contributions. I like that. They must never put their own drive for personal success ahead of overall mission success for the great team. I personally think that being quite selfless is another important trait, and wanting your team to succeed and win will bring you accolades anyway, but I think not wanting those accolades is what will more likely get you those accolades. I know it sounds kind of weird, but for someone who wants them, I think they're less likely to get them, because at a critical, decisive moment, they might make the wrong decision where they want the glory and they just kind of you can only act for so long. Whereas I think if you are truly selfless and you truly care about your team more than anyone, you will at the crucial time still want your team to succeed over you. So I think that must be instilled deep within you. A leader must be attentive to details but not obsessed by them. A good leader does not get bogged down in the minutiae of a tactical problem at the expense of strategic success. He or she must monitor and check the team's progress in the most critical tasks. But that leader cannot get sucked into the details and lose track of the bigger picture. I agree. Having people below you can trust is vitally important. I think the higher up you get, the more you need to be able to see the big picture. It's kind of like, I think there is it's a bit of an ability to be able to visualize the big picture. Kind of like being able to read a map. You look at a map and you can kind of visualize where you are and the surroundings around you, and you kind of go, right, mountain over there, river there, forest over there, and then you look at the map and you kind of go, okay, I know where I am. I feel it's a bit like that. You're in a situation, if you can visualize where you are in terms of whatever project you may be doing, and you as the leader can see everything that's happening, that's an ability that I'm not sure if you can teach that. I think to be able to see the big picture is vital skill. A leader must be strong, but likewise have endurance, not only physically but mentally. He or she must maintain the ability to perform at the highest level and sustain that level for the long term. Leaders must recognize limitations and know to pace themselves and their teams so that they can maintain a solid performance indefinitely. I think that's just practice. Knowing your team, knowing yourself. I think that takes a lot of practice. Leaders must be humble but not passive, quiet but not silent. They must possess humility and the ability to control their ego and listen to others. They must admit mistakes and failures, take ownership of them, and figure out a way to prevent them from happening again. But a leader must be able to speak up when it matters. They must be able to stand up for the team and respectfully push back against a decision, order, or direction that could negatively impact overall mission success. That there, I think, is a very, very... it's a skill that you learn over decades. I think knowing the right time to say something and the right thing to say is very, very difficult. And I think you need to... I know a lot of people say they rehearse arguments in their head. I think you need to be aware of every single thing that is going on around you at all times, so that you always have an explanation for every decision you make. I think being that much in control of all of your decisions, I suppose, is vitally important. But I also think where it says figure out a way to prevent them from happening again, but a leader must be able to speak up when it matters. Right at the beginning. So it says leaders must be humble and not passive, quiet but not silent. I think that's something that I've got better at as I've got older. I love to talk. My mum always used to say I love the sound of my own voice. I probably do. I love talking. I do get bored of my own voice as well. But I do think as I've got older, I've learned to read the room, listen to the room, figure out everything that's going on before I start participating. Figure everyone out, then join in. Obviously you can't do that all the time, but I think it's good practice to watch and observe and pick apart why this person's saying this, and it's just practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it. I also think I gave that example before where there was a leadership program I was on, and I was put into a group, and everyone there is on the leadership program, so they all think they're the best leader. So kind of like in what's it called, The Apprentice with Alan Sugar, when they give you a task, everyone starts arguing because they want to be in charge. Everyone's look at me, and I remember I was put in this group of about 6 people, and I just sat and watched a man and a woman just try and constantly outdo each other. Well, I think this and we should do that, and they were both trying to consistently undermine each other with everything they said, and also make themselves the top dog. And then it got really annoying, and I just basically I told them both to shut up, and I put her in charge, and I just said, listen, you think you can do it, go. And I did say to her as well, do not worry about a word he says. We will all listen to what you say for now. You are in charge. If you think you can do it, go. If he has anything to say about it, I'll deal with him. I did that because I was getting frustrated. And she did do the task really well. I thought she did really well. She led the task really well, and he followed, and yeah, it worked. But someone had to put her in charge, and at that time it was me. So I was very quiet for the first 5 minutes, just observing. No one else was really saying anything. I could tell our group were getting nowhere. We only had about 20 minutes. Someone had to sort it out, so I sorted it out. Right, moving on. A leader must be close with subordinates, but not too close. The best leaders understand the motivations of their team members and know their people, their lives, and their families. But a leader must never grow so close to subordinates that one member of the team becomes more important than another, or more important than the mission itself. Leaders must never get so close that the team forgets who is in charge. Now, this is incredibly difficult. I feel that this is difficult because, especially if you've come from within that team, if you come into that team as the leader from somewhere else, it's a lot easier. But I think if you were a part of that team and then you've been promoted up to leader, it's very, very, very difficult to separate yourself from these people. Not completely, but you have to. You have to put yourself in a position where you're not put in a position that you have to let people get away with stuff. If I am in a position of leadership and someone says to me, we all want to go out and do this, I will say, listen, you are not allowed to do that, but I'm also not going to be here in an hour. I'm telling you, you are not allowed to do it, but I'm also telling you, I'm not going to be here. There are ways of managing things. Obviously, I wouldn't do everything like that, but I think you have to say to them that I know, do it, but no. I do think it's very, very important to have that distance, and I have found that quite difficult over time, because I do grow to care about people, but it's a difficult one. But I think having that lack of ego is also very useful in this situation, because as it says, where is it? Leaders must never. Where was the ego bit? I've lost it. Team must go more important than the mission itself. Leaders must never get so the team forgets who is in charge. Yeah, I think that not being close to your subordinates is super important. I struggle with this one a lot. This is something I need to learn. Right. A leader must exercise extreme ownership. Simultaneously, the leader must employ decentralized command by giving control to subordinate leaders. Something we've already spoke about, but definitely. Finally, a leader has nothing to prove but everything to prove. By virtue of rank and position, the team understands that the leader is in charge. A good leader does not gloat or revel in his or her position. To take charge of minute details just to demonstrate and reinforce to the team a leader's authority is the mark of poor, inexperienced leadership lacking in confidence. Since the team understands that the leader is de facto in charge, in that respect, a leader has nothing to prove. But in another respect, a leader has everything to prove. Every member of the team must develop the trust and confidence that their leader will exercise good judgment, remain calm, and make the right decisions when it matters most. Leaders must earn that respect and prove themselves worthy, demonstrating through action that they will take care of the team and look out for their long-term interests and well-being. In that respect, a leader has everything to prove every day. Beyond this, there are countless other leadership dichotomies that must be carefully balanced. Generally, when a leader struggles, the root cause behind the problem is that the leader has leaned too far in one direction and steered off course. Awareness of the dichotomies in leadership allow this discovery and thereby enables the correction. So a good leader must be confident, not cocky, courageous, but not foolhardy, competitive, but a gracious loser, attentive to details, but not obsessed by them, strong, but have endurance, a leader and a follower, humble, not passive, aggressive, not overbearing, quiet, not silent, calm, but not robotic, logical, but not devoid of emotions, close with the troops, but not so close that one becomes more important than another or more important than the good of the team, not so close that they forget who is in charge, and able to execute extreme ownership while exercising decentralized command. A good leader has nothing to prove, but everything to prove. That section of that particular chapter, Discipline Equals Freedom, is one of the best chapters I've read in terms of explaining the, using Jocko's word, dichotomy of leadership. The complications of it, and I think there's some very, very important points in there. There's a couple I would put in there as well, like integrity, a few other things, but I think overall that is an incredible section on leadership. The book is very good if you haven't read it. That particular section jumped out to me the most, and that is literally in the last chapter. As I said at the beginning, I definitely want to interview Jocko and Leif one day, probably separately. I would like to interview them separately, and I've got many questions, but I want to get those questions right first. I want to do a bit more research. I want to be able to ask them their opinion on certain things, and also ask them questions that they might not have thought of before. So, I need to do my research a bit more. I need to read a lot more. There's quite a few other people I want to interview as well. So, I will get around to them. I think their book is incredible. I've got a couple more to read. I've got, I have Dichotomy of Leadership up there. Dichotomy of Leadership, and I've also got Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual by Jocko Willink. Handsome man, look at him. I've got this one to read as well. I've got I'll get through those quite quickly, I think. This one I'm really excited to read. It Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual. It looks like a poetry book. I love it. It looks awesome. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. I love the book. It's given me lots to think about. And his dichotomy at the end, I think, is incredible. Jocko's dichotomy. So, if you really wanna read some stuff on leadership, definitely have a look at that. I mean, I've just ordered about another 12 leadership books. They're going to take me time to get through, but lots and lots to get through. So if anyone's got any good leadership books they know of, or anyone that's really good example of a leader that they think I should interview, please let me know. Or if you know anyone that wants to talk about leadership, listen to leadership. Anyone that's interested in leadership, then send them this way, because I want to spread the love. I want to get conversations going. I want to pick everyone's brains. And then, as I said previously, I want to do my PhD on, I think, probably like the philosophy of leadership, maybe. I just want to figure it out. I really want to figure it out. And I think Jocko's gone a long way towards doing that. I need to interview some other great leaders. I really want to interview someone like, I think Sir Alex Ferguson would be amazing to interview, because I think he is in some ways very similar to Jocko, but I'd love to hear the differences. More than the similarities, I want to hear the things that they disagree on, because I think that's when you start really getting to the juice of it, and you start getting to things like statistical analysis. And if you get 5 incredible leaders and you start picking apart all those bits, then you can really find out what the essentials are. So yeah, I'm super excited. I need to find some great people to interview. So please send me some ideas, send people my way. Let's have some conversations. So cool, thank you again, and speak to you soon.